third segment of our conversation, I want to talk a little bit pulled back on the industry, the landscape, the market trends, etc. You've seen the entire space of fintech, wealth tech, whatever you may call it, evolve over the years. What's changed the most in the last, let's say, post COVID piece? What has changed the most?
I think post COVID, the biggest thing that's changed is people's willingness to invest through digital means, right? Participation in the market has grown significantly only for that reason. We have been on an upward trend. It's really the retail investors that have kept the markets where they are, right? Even when institutional investors are pulling out, retail investors are still investing. So I think that is the biggest change and the biggest opportunity, both for the investor as well as businesses who are entering that space. And I don't see that slowing down anytime soon because there's a lot of scope for growth. If you look, there was a Goldman Sachs report that came out, I think it was earlier this year or maybe late last year, where they're basically saying in the next 3 years, there will be 100 million people earning $10,000 a year or more in India, right? And that's not a small amount. What's going to happen with all that money? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to invest it? So it is a massive opportunity in India today, and I think we should double down on that.
And investors of yesteryears, investors of today, what are they looking for? Let's do a comparison between let's play two generations, Gen X versus Gen Z.
See, Gen X versus Gen Z is a bit difficult for me to comment on, but I can, you know, obviously attention spans are a lot less. Things are happening on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Telegram groups, but I also worry a lot about the slightly older generations, including people like my mother who. Only in the last year, even after me like being after her for a while, has allowed me to help her with this, and I can tell you it's a mess. For, Forget the fact that typically, let's say you need 5, 7, 10 mutual funds to diversify. I mean, there were like 27, 28, right? There are stocks that were not converted to demat, right? Invested 2, 3 decades ago, um, just lying around, not accessible to her because of various things. I happened to be staying at home for a while, so I saw a letter. I started this process. I mean, there were like 2, 3 investments like that, and all significant amounts. So I think there's another opportunity, business opportunity there. So if and I know some people are getting getting into it as well, but just helping that older generation one digitize the wealth that they have invested in is a huge opportunity, and I think people need to get into that as well. In the newer generation, I think they're very willing to use digital means. All the investments are already digital, so that risk has gone. I also think that they're starting investing at a point when SEBI's put in enough regulation in place. RBI has enough regulation in place. KYC is clear. Aadhaar, PANs, OTPs, they're all linked. So I think from that perspective, it is significantly easier. You can open an app, do your KYC, invest all within minutes, right? You can even get loans within minutes. So that whole experience for the Gen Z, Gen X has become much, much better. And I think largely they do use it to their advantage, but I would double down on our earlier conversation about patience, right? It's not a make money fast game. It is absolutely a slow game, and I've also done the same thing. I've invested when I was in the US. I invested in all these tech stocks, Tesla, Facebook, etc. But if you look at it over a multi-year period, if you just invest in the right funds, your returns are probably around the same. Just because one year you made 50% on some stock, that's not going to be sustainable.
And Eddie, so One is literacy of finance, the second is literacy of tech, right? So one generation has financial literacy a little more than the tech literacy. The other generation seems to have tech literacy a lot more than the financial literacy. That's quite a fascinating piece for me. But what I'm trying to really understand is that when there is this mismatch between the two literacies, what is it that tech can really help with? And what is it that people are really looking for when they come to advisors like my?
So I really think that here's where generative AI and the type of AI that you see in today's applications, tools, etc., plays a massive role, right? And I'm not talking just about finance. Whether you're a 20-year-old or an 80-year-old, we all know how to communicate using language, right? Whether that's English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, whatever that might be. I really think in the next decade, you can speak to a device and tell it what you want and it does it for you, right? We're no longer talking about downloading 10 different apps for one for banking, one for investing, one for your groceries. I mean, it's already happening to an extent. A lot of people use WhatsApp for everything, right? Making a booking. In fact, what I was talking about, that conversational experience where we support on the enterprise side, our first medium is on WhatsApp, not on a website or an app. So I really think that we need to reimagine this world where you are essentially talking to a device and it is able to do things for you. So that bridges all gaps, right? The language gap, the tech gap, the understanding of whatever that subject matter might be. It is able to explain it to you in a way that you will understand because it has knowledge across spectrums, and it's able to explain it to a 10-year-old as well as an 80-year-old. So I really think this the world that we live in today is going through a transformational change in a way that we have never seen in our lifetimes. It is moving faster than the internet. Um, I mean, primarily because you have access to this with a mobile phone, right? And today, mobile phones are everywhere, literally. So everyone has access to this. It's not, it doesn't, you don't need an internet connection separately. In those days, there were dial up connections that were expensive and you had to pay for. None of that. Everyone has internet. We don't talk about it. It's just there. Most people have a smartphone, which means you have access to this tool as well. So I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be quite transformative, and uh, yeah, hopefully we also play a part in that.
Two trends you're super excited about.
One is certainly move more towards conversational experiences with voice as
Mhm.
well. India is also doing a lot of work on the multilingual side, and we also have released some models around that. I honestly think that multilingual voice capabilities will be key in inclusivity as well. So that is one massive change that I think is super important. Uh, Second one, I'm not sure. I feel like I've already covered most of it, but really hope that this continued move towards investing in digital financial assets continues because we're a long way from the rest of the world. So need to play a lot of catch up.
Since you said inclusivity, you bring me to my favorite topic always. What about women and investments? What's happening there?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I want to say demographic wise, we are still more, there are still more male users. However, I must say that at least anecdotally, we do events every now and then as well. There are a lot of women also interested in investing themselves, right? So I think that's changing also because women are a lot more independent, earning the same salaries that their male counterparts do. So they also need to manage their finances, right? So I think that it's certainly trending in the right direction. But again, it's there need to be more conscious efforts by organizations to kind of help with this. We don't have anything focused on that yet, but yeah, certainly an opportunity for growth in that space as well.
Okay. And with that, we'll move into our next segment, Kiran. And I just want to understand as we talk about, you are built on technology,
Mhm.
and you have digital tools at the heart of your product. But what I want to understand is how do you use technology, not just in product development, but also in things like onboarding, user experiences, user support, all of that. What's the role of technology there?
Yeah, so I mean, I would go so far as saying that today we use technology and AI specifically in almost every single function, right? Um, Everything from how we screen resumes to writing reports to just analyzing information that we have. I really like I really think that people need to use it more because the level of efficiency you gain is just phenomenal, right? There was an article I was reading where there was an experiment by some university, I forget the university now, where they essentially agreed with an organization to embed a Gen AI tool as part of the board meetings. Okay, and the biggest outcome from that is they certainly agreed that Gen AI is not replacing humans, but what it does allow you to do and what it allowed them to do is get information and make decisions on the spot, right? Not wait for a follow up data report or anything like that, right? It was instant information based on questions people were asking. So I really think that's completely changed. So in our workflow and workspace today, obviously, our product has been optimized for various things, all the way from onboarding to customer support. We use, all kinds of tech products throughout the process. But more than that, I honestly think the size of team, we're around 15 people. I don't think we could do all the things we do today um, if we didn't have the AI tools available to us for our internal workflows. So every function from like engineering to design to content to HR, everyone uses something.
That's it. Interesting. Every time I speak about fintech, the one big word that always comes up is called scams. Um, I just want to get a sense of I just want to get your sense on this entire piece of scams, how to make data more secure, what about privacy of consumer data, things like that. What's your take on that?
So I feel like that's a two-part answer. On the scams piece, I really feel like the only way to truly solve for it is better digital literacy. I feel like when we were in school, it's not like we learned about digital literacy at all, right? But I already see that changing. My daughter, she's 8 years old. They already have things about digital literacy, scams, etc., digital scams, etc. So that honestly is the right approach. I think it needs to be done at scale, and there also need to be more awareness programs, which I know the government is trying to do, but it's still not quite there yet. It is the fear has been instilled for sure, right? So older generations like my mother, my mother-in-law, they just they hear anything that they feel is suspicious, they just stop. They hang up, they don't talk, they call me or my wife, they said, I got this call. Sometimes it's genuine and then, we get back to them. So that helps. But we certainly need to get to a stage of better prevention, which again, I feel the government is certainly taking steps in the right direction. Even with UPI, they're adding some restrictions now on, how you can do a pull request for money and not allow for that, right? So heading in the right direction, but only way to solve that problem, honestly, I feel, is better digital education. So there's no quick fixes to that. But of course, scanning for spam, etc., in real time. I know Airtel's done something. Truecaller's great. So that certainly helps also. But at the root of it, you need to improve literacy. The second point on privacy and security, you know, honestly, for us, that's been at the heart of how we built MiFi as well. So even before we got our ISO certification, uh, we were compliant with it right from the start, right? So any PII that comes in, like your PAN, date of birth, etc., is encrypted and stored. So even if you looked at the database, you wouldn't be able to read it. So I think taking steps like that is extremely important. And in today's day and age, it is not hard to do. So it's not like you need to be a large enterprise with a large team to ensure you have data security and privacy. And I really encourage any startup that's starting today or already on that journey to take this very seriously because especially in the finance space where you are capturing very personal information, data security is paramount.
Before I step into our last segment, I just want to understand when you talk about data security and data security being paramount, how can startups really work towards ensuring that that is critical or is the central point of their organization and not something which is an afterthought? Because very often it becomes an afterthought after the
Yeah, I
problem
mean,
has happened.
yeah, so I think that's a cultural thing, right? If you really want to solve it at the root, right from the leadership level, there needs to be this sense that privacy and security is extremely important. That is the only way that every single person in the organization is going to adhere to it, think about it, because honestly, security is a uh, constant surveillance that's needed within your systems, right? Because you know your systems the best. So the cultural angle of security is extremely important. Outside of that, I mean, honestly, the only thing you can do is get certified with ISO, SOC 2, and other sort of certificates, which then review your platform, go through the details, do a VAPT test, which is a vulnerability assessment test. Um, so you can add all of those things on, which will help, but that's also kind of after the fact, right? You build something and then you test it and then you fix it. So I honestly feel the only way to solve this properly is have the right culture. And if you're a person starting a tech product and you are not a tech person, I would strongly encourage you to have a tech co-founder, not a CTO, not someone you hire because you have to, but a tech co-founder. It's just the level of commitment and ownership you will have is just very different.
That sounded nice. Okay, into our last segment. And my first question there is, what's your personal do big mantra, the mindset you believe young entrepreneurs in fintech must have to succeed?
See, I think you need to have conviction for something that's large. And by large, I mean high impact with the number of people you touch, right? For me, that's been the number one driver. A lot of people think entrepreneurship is glorious, you make a lot of money, all of these other things that come with it, right? If those are the reasons you are starting a business, just absolutely do not do it because you will fail. The level of commitment you need to start and run a business successfully, I mean, you just can't imagine it. The kind of stress that you go through, whether it's personal, professional, financial, managing a team, it's it's just not possible unless you have strong conviction in a very very big idea, right? And that big idea can't be make lots of money. It needs to be have impact or change people's lives. So whatever segment, whether it's finance or not, that North Star is extremely important for me, at least. So I really don't think I know any successful entrepreneurs whose goal was make lots of money and they were successful.
In this space, in the fintech space especially, of late, there's been a lot that has happened, right? Thanks to UPI happening, it enabling a lot of things in the country, etc. There's lots of innovation that's happening in the space. Uh, but it's also confused with a lot of noise. So there's true innovation which is happening where we're seeing the success, and then there's a whole bunch of people who come in with all these ideas and then they fail because it's just about like you said, a small idea, a big idea of making the money off a small idea and things like that. Where
Yeah.
where and how do you think uh, entrepreneurs need to focus when they look at innovation in the fintech space? Because you could get caught up and say, oh, it's a very big idea, but it could be a very small cog in the whole wheel and then not work. How do they identify those areas and things like
See, I think I honestly believe that no problem is necessarily too small, because if there is a real pain point that you are feeling, you can probably do research and figure out that, you know what, it's affecting a lot of other people as well. So I don't know if having a problem too small is an issue, right? Because typically it's not too small. The problem I see is when people try to slap things like AI on top of everything, right? Today, I mean, I don't know a company that's saying they're not using AI, or they are AI forward, because an investor won't fund them, or some sort of external facing reason. So I really think that while in this case AI can be used for many things, you need to focus on the problem. What is the problem you are solving? Is it real? What is the impact you can have by solving that problem? Right? That's where your focus needs to be, and that's how you can grow a successful business and a startup. Not by focusing on what the buzzword is this year. So my only advice to anyone trying to start a new business is figure out a real problem and then try and solve for that, right? AI and all of these things are tools that will help you solve it, sure, but I wouldn't think of AI as the starting point and then figure out the problem.
that? Interesting. My last question before I end this conversation, and that is, beyond generative AI, what other technologies do you think are tech pieces that entrepreneurs should look out for?
I mean, generative AI is in a very early stage. I actually think that the tech around this is also going to change quite a bit, right? So uh, we are in very early days of what could be a completely transformative um, technology. So I don't think we've even scratched the surface. There's a saying that's often used where humans overestimate what's possible in the short term and underestimate what's possible in the long term. It is more true about this technology than anything else. Also, the way LLMs work today, there are numerous articles about how, in its current form, it's not going to get to that super intelligence, artificial general intelligence that people expect. So, uh, I think keep your eyes open for how the space is changing. Don't blindly just follow what the trends are. It requires a lot of research time, a lot of time with experts in the area that helps you stay on top of it. Um, and That's what I would focus on. I don't honestly see a non AI trend that is, um, you know, at the forefront right now. Everything kind of points to that in different ways. Even the infrastructure improvements, changes, transformations when it comes to chips, etc., all kind of focus on how do we enable this technology better. So I don't think this is going to change for a long time, but the underlying foundational models and things will definitely change. The architecture will change, but the space will take time to mature as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kiran. It was an absolute pleasure having you on the Do Big podcast. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. As usual, I learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much for giving us this time of yours.
Thank you, Sheetal. Thanks for having me.